Welcome to FBB Forum. If you like this content, please be sure to follow my Instagram page and subscribe to the FBB Forum YouTube channel. I'm very excited to welcome the beautiful IFBB Pro Women's Bodybuilding competitor, Hannah Hussein, to the podcast. Hannah has been competing in bodybuilding since 2013 and recently earned her pro card at the NPC North Americans last year in 2023. Hannah has a very bright future in the sport. Please stay tuned to find out more about her future plans. Welcome, Hannah. It's great to have you here.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. Like I mentioned before, I've been following your career for a while, so I was glad to see you get your pro card.
Thanks. Yeah, I've been doing this for a while. It feels like forever.
Oh no, I was really pleased. Yeah, you'd been kind of knocking at the door there for and had some high placings for the last few years too.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really frustrating, like to miss it by a couple places. But
Yeah, I understand. My first few questions about how you got started in bodybuilding, and I was wondering if you had an athletic or a sports background before you started.
I did. So I originally started in doing triathlons with my stepdad. And then when I was a teenager, like early teens, I did gymnastics, I did horseback riding. And actually triathlons, training for a triathlon is what got me into weight training, because I was at a gym in Texas when I moved here, um, training for a triathlon. And I think I was like, I would just do the cardio equipment because it's all, triathlons are all it's swimming, biking, and running.
Hmm.
Uh, and I would just go there, use the cardio equipment. Um, and I met a trainer there, which kind of made my whole weight training career kick off. There's a little more to it. I saw a magazine, which is really what started my interest in the way it looked, the way muscle looked on it was a I want to say it was, I still can't remember the name of the magazine. And I've done different podcasts where we were like trying to find this magazine, and the woman that was on the cover, I think it was like Muscle and Fitness or Flex or something like that, but it was a blonde woman with short blonde hair, and she was doing a row. Okay. And she was, very muscular. And I saw that, and just something in my brain was like, I need to look like that. Uh,
Yeah, very cool.
and at the same time, I was doing these triathlons and working out at a gym, working out, doing cardio. And that's what inspired me to go into the weight section. And that's where I met this personal trainer, and things just kind of took off from there. But yeah, I've always been athletic, just not wasn't always into weights.
Triathlons are really tough too. That's pretty impressive that you used to do that because that's especially with the three sports combined. That's
Yeah.
just really takes a lot out of you, I think.
Yeah, and I was good at the swimming. So like I used to train with my stepdad, and I really liked running for some reason. I don't know why I liked running more than like swimming and biking. But I was really bad at it. And I remember him telling me, he was like, "You're good at a lot of things, but running is not one of them."
Really?
But I wanted to, like, I just liked, I have always liked the feeling of athleticism, whatever it is, regardless what it is.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I'm just better at certain things. Like I was naturally good at swimming because I've always had a pretty strong upper body.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, weight training felt more natural to me than triathlons. Triathlons doing like a high amount of aerobics is still really hard for me.
Really? Yeah, I understand. That's tough. I just it just seems like after end of a triathlon you just collapse and just be a puddle on the ground for a while because it would just be so tough.
Yeah, that is literally exactly what happened, because so when I was competing, we competed in our own weight, not our weight divisions, age divisions. So they were separated by ages.
Okay.
I actually won a couple, and I got, first, second, third place. But keep in mind, I was also like 15, 16 at the time.
Oh, I
Uh,
see.
But yeah, when we were done, they would always have pizza after, and I would just like lay down and eat pizza.
Oh, I totally understand that. I would do the same thing. Bring me the box, you
Yeah.
know. Um, Now you mentioned the personal trainer. Was that who got started? You started in bodybuilding competitions?
Yeah, well, so he was the one that taught me how to weight train. So I was about 16 when so I saw this magazine. I was at work. I was a cashier for HEB, which is a grocery store here in Texas.
Hmm.
And I saw that magazine while I was at work at HEB. And I was 16 at the time because that was my very first job. And I was so my kind of like daily routine was I would go to work, go to school, and then go to the gym after.
Hmm.
Uh, and so I saw this magazine, and then that's what inspired me to the next time I went to the gym to do my cardio to go venture into the weights area. And so this trainer, this personal trainer, he was working at this. It was a 24-hour fitness.
Hmm.
Um, and he saw me, in the weight area doing things really wrong, like
Mm.
so wrong, just had no idea what I was doing.
Hmm.
And back then, I didn't have a cell phone with access to the internet. I just had one of those flip phones, so
Yeah.
I was very sheltered, didn't have really access to the internet, didn't have access to much things.
Okay.
So I
Yeah.
just, was like winging it on my own. And he saw this and he came up to me and he was like, "Hey, let me teach you some stuff." And that's just kind of where it came from. Where he saw me trying to weight train and I guess felt bad for me.
Yeah.
Let me teach you. And so that it took off from there. He actually started training me for free. Um, it was like 3 days a week, and I would go weight train with him, and he did not bodybuild. He looked kind of like he could have, like he was very muscular, but he didn't bodybuild.
Mhm.
Uh, so he was kind of training me like just a regular person that's getting into weight training, which
Okay.
was a good thing back then. But it wasn't until my 20s that I actually started competing.
Oh, I see. Very cool. Yeah. What age were you when you started?
I believe I was 22 or 23.
Very
I think I
cool.
was 23. But so fast forward to I fell in love with weights and I fell in love with the gym. So that inspired me to become a personal trainer myself.
Okay.
So when I turned 18, I immediately went and got certified as a trainer, as a personal trainer.
Oh, wow. Very good.
And then I started working at a gym. I started working at Fitness Connection, and that's when people, because I was still weight training at this and doing things myself, right? Like I was doing all like aside from what that the original trainer had taught me. I did not continue to train with him throughout my 20s. I went on and did my own things, and because I was getting my own education in this. I
Sure.
was not training like a bodybuilder, like
Okay.
at all. Like I was training like just like an athlete, right? Um, and so when I started working as a personal trainer myself, people would come up to me all the time and be like, "Do you compete?" And I didn't know what that was. I was like,
Mm.
"No." I would just say no because I thought they meant in like CrossFit or something, you
Oh, I
know.
see. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And yeah, I kind of never questioned it. I was never like compete in what, like I just assumed they meant like either powerlifting or because that's what the things I knew about.
Okay. Sure. I
Um,
understand.
and it wasn't until I was 22 or 23 where one of my friends who I had met at the gym came up to me. Who was like, "Hey, um, I think you should go see this nutritionist because you come in here and you work out hard and you do everything else right, but you're like my diet was trash.
Mm.
It was very much a 20-year-old diet, right? Like I would I would wake up and eat M&Ms. Like that was
Oh.
literally breakfast.
Oh, that's not the best bodybuilding diet. No.
No, it's not. So, and I remember this because the nutritionist that so my friend that would see me all the time and see me train hard and whatever. And I already had people asking me if I compete because I kind of looked like it. Like I had cap shoulders and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Uh, so he convinced me. He was like, just go see this guy. He was like, you already put in so much work, just go see what he says. And so I did, and I made the appointment. I walked in and he was like, you're here for prep coaching. And I was like, no, I'm here for nutrition. And he was
Hmm.
like, you have to compete. Like the first thing he said to me, he was like, you have to compete with those shoulders. You have to compete. I'm like, people keep
Wow.
asking me this and I don't know what it is.
Oh, I see. Wow, that's cool. So you had to be
And
schooled in bodybuilding, huh?
so that day he pulled up on his computer, he pulled up, it was figure at the time. So
Mhm,
I guess when he saw me, he immediately was like, figure, you got to do figure.
mhm.
He pulled up pictures of women on stage, all super tan in their bikinis, and it looked so weird to me. What looked really weird was how high they go up, like how high
Oh,
this go up, you know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I know.
And then the tan, I was like, how am I was like, I'm never gonna get that tan. He was like, trust me, it's like spray paint. They're just gonna spray it on you.
Uh-huh.
Um, and so like in my mind, when he's showing me these pictures, I'm like, there's no way I'm gonna look like that, not knowing what a prep was.
Yeah.
And so he was like, he talked me into it. He was like, trust me. He was like, I want to measure your shoulders. He was like, let me just measure your shoulders and your waist and we'll go from there. And so he didn't, and he called it like a magic number of my shoulder to waist ratio.
Yeah.
So he actually sponsored my first show, my first national qualifier and my first national show.
Wow, very good.
What got me into it, yeah. So in the first show that I had ever been to, bodybuilding show I'd been to, was the one I was doing. And I had like when they did the call outs, I look back and I'm like, I should have done way more research than I did because I didn't know what the call outs were. I didn't know that when they called my number, it was a good thing.
Oh,
Like,
oh, I see.
yeah, it was
You're trying to
thankfully,
trip.
yeah, thankfully there's not a lot of video of it because you could tell I had no idea what I was doing, but I got second place
Wow, very good.
out of like 30 girls. So I ended up going to nationals. So I mean, it was a fun experience. The only thing is, so the coach that took me on, the nutritionist that took me on, he didn't mean to, but he was not a good coach.
Okay.
He was not, and now looking back, I can see where his kind of lapses in judgment and the way he did his protocols really hurt me.
Hmm.
Because he kept me very, very lean. So
Hmm.
once we went over like my diet, because he started with, well, what do you eat? Because I went in there relatively lean, like I was athletic, right?
Hmm.
uh and he was like, go through your day to day on what you eat, what you do. And he was like, what did you eat for breakfast this morning? And I was like, M&Ms. He was like, oh my god. I was like, but they were peanut M&Ms, so it's protein.
Oh no. Oh man.
Yeah. um So he was like, that's not protein, that's a fat. Um, we're gonna fix that. And so my body responded really fast to the prep diet, like you cut carbs and you cut fats, and I got lean super fast.
Okay. Yeah.
And so he but he kept me lean even after I competed, even after I got to nationals. Uh,
Oh,
he tried to keep me that lean, uh,
yeah.
and I ended up developing hypothyroidism.
Oh, really? Oh, wow. That's not good. Yeah.
Yeah, so my hormones tanked. Like the first time I went, he sent me to get labs done, and this is after I had already competed in both shows.
Uh-huh.
And my testosterone was a 7. Like all my hormones were so tanked.
Huh.
Uh, and me like being very ignorant when it comes to hormone. Like I knew how to train okay, right? But I didn't know anything about nutrition. I didn't know anything about hormones. I didn't know anything about PEDs.
Sure.
Um, and so, and like I said, I don't think that he meant to wreck my health.
Yeah,
Uh,
I
I don't,
understand.
because I think he was just doing what was done to him. in the
Hmm.
past.
Yeah, I
Um,
understand.
because we hear that all the time, somebody they'll go through a prep themselves, and then they'll put other people through it, and their body might have handled it okay, but somebody else's, and especially, men and women are so different when it comes to that. Like, he would have
Hmm.
male competitors do fine on super, super low fat for long periods of time.
Hmm.
But the women, turns out, because I'd met other women that he coached, same thing, they all ended up with hormone issues down the
Really?
road.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, every single
Yeah.
one of us. Yeah.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You have to have kind of a healthy off season too, I think
Yeah.
to grow, but also I think it's just better for your body in general and
Yeah.
kind of get back to a stasis, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And because that was my first experience with a coach, he didn't really teach me that. He didn't really stress off season was going to be different than prep. It was kind of like, well, we need to keep you lean.
Hmm.
Uh, and to me, I was like, I loved the way I looked, so I didn't argue, and I didn't start having issues until my body literally forced me to slow down.
Yeah, I
um,
understand.
and then his remedy for that was drugs.
Oh no.
Yeah, so
Oh,
I kept losing muscle because he had me on such low calories, um that my training was suffering. I kept losing weight even though I wasn't in prep anymore. I kept losing weight. I got down to 108 pounds,
really?
which I went in
Yikes.
here at 118, and by the time him and I were done, like, because I ended up going to somebody else because it just wasn't working, I was
Yeah,
108 pounds.
that's crazy. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And so his
Yeah.
remedy to that, instead of feeding me more, was put in PEDs, to try
Mm,
to offset it. So that was my terrible experience with the first coach, and it really wrecked me for a while. I ended up having to go to a hormone specialist for about 5, 6 years to be normal again.
yeah, I understand. I guess it was a good learning experience for you at least, though.
Yeah. Yeah, now when I hear people, because there's always, younger people coming into the sport, when they're telling me about some of the things that I remember being done to me, I'm like, wait, hold on.
Mhm.
Do your own research. There's so much on the internet now. Um, so I try to be a cautionary tale.
I think that's really good, and I think that's good to tell other folks about that. Um, Now, I wanted to talk a little bit about competing, and as we talked about, you earned your pro card in 2023 at the North Americans. I bet that was really a relief to get the pro card, but how did it feel for you to win?
It felt amazing. It was probably the most confident I've ever been going into a show. And I said this on, I think it was Darren's podcast, that I'm not being conceited, but I knew I was going to win because of the weight class I was in. You
Okay,
know, um,
yeah,
it was just a feeling. It wasn't like I was like, oh, I look so. It was just a feeling that turned out to be right. So it was great. Like, the whole show was great. Um, and my coach was amazing. So
that's awesome. Who are you working with coach-wise now?
so his name is Jake Salisbury. Um, he's not super well known in the industry. I'm actually his first pro.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
but he doesn't typically take on competitors.
Oh, I
Um,
see. Yeah.
so the way that happened was, we were actually training partners first. Um, I contacted him for training, and it was right before I started a prep um, with another coach, and him seeing me go through the first part of this prep with this coach that I had some good experiences with, and I mean, I have no issues with him as a coach, and I'm not going to say any names because I don't think it's a little irrelevant, but
Sure.
he works for some people. Like, his protocols work well for some people, and to be fair, his protocols starting a prep worked really well for me. Like, the diet, the cardio he had me on. My issues came up with the diuretics.
Okay.
And some of the
Oh,
Yeah. So I'm not opposed to PEDs at all, or diuretics. but they just don't do well for me. Diuretics do. PEDs,
Yeah.
sorry. Um, they're
Diuretics can be kind of dangerous, right? I
yeah,
mean,
they
yeah.
can be very, very dangerous. Yes.
Mhm.
Um, and so the shows that I did with him previously, because I did, I want to say 3 or 4 shows with him. Um, and the prep would go great, and then peak week he would put me on diuretics, and I would just keep flattening out,
Mhm.
and it just I never looked better. They would make me feel like trash. They
Mhm.
are dangerous, and then I wouldn't even look better. Like I wouldn't mind going through that and taking that risk if it made me look better, but it didn't.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah, I
and
understand.
so when I was training with Jake, which is my coach now, and the coach that I was with when I got my pro card, uh, my previous coach was telling me to, he was telling me the protocol that we are going to go into, and it had diuretics, and I had told him, hey, I don't want to do this again because we've done several shows and they never made me look better. And he kind of was like, well, this time, we'll do this different. And I'm like, I don't think it's that. I think it's the diuretic that did
Mhm.
that.
Yeah.
Uh, me not being lean enough and then taking diuretic.
Mhm.
Me not being lean enough was another big part, right? But that's also goes into I trust my coach. You know, when you're in a prep, you can't trust your mind so much, right? Because your thinking's already kind of
Mhm.
compromised.
Yeah, I understand. Yeah.
And
No,
so, yeah,
no, you have to do what's right for your health too, and you know
yeah,
your body too, I'm sure, so it worked out better with the new coach, with Jake.
yeah. So he took over halfway through because he could see that I was a little stressed because I'm like this. I'm gonna work hard, and then I'm gonna take a diuretic and I'm gonna mess it up because that's what my coach wants me to do. And he goes, you know what? Let me take the reins on this. He was like, I know, because he's a great trainer. Like that's what he does. He's a coach. But for normal people, for people that just want regular health, but he's also a
Yeah.
bodybuilder himself. So
Okay.
he's done this, and he's also super, super smart. So I trusted him, and it turned out to be a great thing. Because he was like, okay, what's stressing you out? What, like, going through all the stuff that it was in my head that I was worried about, and he was like, all right, this is what we're gonna do. I'll take over from here, and we're just not gonna do the things that you don't want to do. You don't want to take clen, you don't want to take a bunch of T3 or diuretics. We just won't do it. And I
Okay.
was like, oh my god, like the easiest prep that I've ever done, you know.
And most successful too,
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. And I like the best I'd looked on stage. And I'm not saying it was easy because it was hard in the sense that I was very hungry and I was not used to being that hungry, but I was also used to taking so much clen and so much appetite suppressants that, you know, I wasn't hungry, but my body felt like trash. You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean? Like,
understand.
so um yeah, it would I never, for some reason, like, because all the coaches I'd been with previously, they'd always had me on a bunch of T3, which I get, like I have a hypothyroidism, but I take medication for that already.
Okay. Yeah.
But I've still, up until Jake, every single coach that I had wanted me on clen, wanted me on T3, massive amounts,
Mm.
not just 25 micrograms here just to supplement what your normal thyroid is doing. Um, but yeah, so I never had a coach be like, all right, you don't want to take this? Okay, we won't take it, you know?
Yeah, that's really good.
Yeah.
It's good to have a coach listen to you like that and listen to your concerns, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, where do you hope to compete next? Because you talked about maybe 2025 is going to be your next competition.
I have not researched like actual shows. I just think that's going to be a good timeline as far as like uh the size that I want to put on and like the improvements I want to make. I feel like mid and 2025 would be a good time frame.
Yeah, I understand. I think that would be good and give you some. I found taking the year off really helps a lot of ladies. I think it helps with
Yeah.
health, but also growing and just kind of enjoying life too after you've been competing
Yeah.
after every year for the last few years too.
I enjoy competing, but yeah, I feel like my physique comes back better if I take some more time.
Oh, I think that's true of many ladies. Yeah. Do you hope to compete in women's bodybuilding or women's physique or
I want to do bodybuilding. I love the poses, and like my front lat is like my strongest pose, and that's they don't have that in physique, you know. Um,
that's
I'm
true.
yeah, I'm absolutely in love with women's bodybuilding. Like I know it's gonna take me a while to get on this size, and especially now. Like I'm not against taking PEDs. Obviously, I've taken plenty, um, but I still want to be as reserved as I can. You know, get away with the least. You know, because I've had bad experiences with them in the past.
Okay.
And so, yes, I'm still taking them, but I just want to do it slower and on less, less risks that way.
Sure. I totally understand that. That's good to be careful, I think, too, with those. And you have a great this overall structure. Your lats have always been kind of a strong suit and kind of a tiny waist too. You look great.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, my lats kind of I think when my shoulders and my lats, they kind of started when I was swimming. Like weirdly enough, they started developing when I was swimming.
Oh, actually, that makes sense though, in terms of the motions with the
Yeah.
swimming and yeah, I totally understand that. We're running a little bit low on time. We have about 7 minutes left. Zoom kind of restricts me, but it kind of keeps me in line, keeping the
Yeah.
interviews
Yeah.
to about half hour. I was curious, in terms of doing like adult content, like how long have you been producing the adult content? And do you kind of have like a preferred website? Like, I know OnlyFans has been really popular among the ladies and the fans and stuff, but I'm just curious.
So how long I've been doing it? Since like early 2020. Actually, I started it around when the pandemic hit, which turned out to be a lifesaver because I wouldn't have been able to afford my bills otherwise because my gym,
Oh,
the one I was personal training full time up until I started OnlyFans.
oh
Uh,
yeah, I understand.
so right now I'm only on OnlyFans. I'm not trying to. I'm kind of thinking about branching out into like my own website just in
Okay,
case. So not, my whole life doesn't crash if the site does, because that's happened before.
yeah.
Uh, so
They kind of stopped allowing adult content for a while, I think, or they cut back, I think.
well, they were saying they were going to stop allowing it, but they never did. They retracted that because for whatever reason. But yeah, that was like, I was like, crap, I'm going to have to find something else. Uh,
Mhm.
you know.
Yeah. Is the it's been working out pretty good though for you in terms of
Oh yeah.
fans and everything? And
Yeah.
yeah,
And honestly, weirdly enough, like I really enjoy it. Like,
yeah,
you some people believe that you shouldn't enjoy that sort of thing. I've always kind of had that side to me where I enjoy expressing myself in that way.
hmm,
Um, and it works out even better because the people that are there supporting me support me in bodybuilding, and that's not something I've ever had before. So it's also like it's also very what's the word, like it's good for my self-esteem, because
yeah,
getting into this I didn't have a lot of support.
sure.
um so knowing that I have this community, even though it's kind of weird to call it a community to some people, it is what it is, but they really do support me, and so it's, yeah, I like it.
That's terrific. It is kind of like a crowdsourcing way to raise money too, because you can just send small donations or small tips, So I think
Yeah,
that every little bit helps, I think.
exactly. And I don't ask for this because I see competing as kind of like a luxury. But every time I compete, people always send me tips and like gifts, and it's so nice. It just feels like, I don't know, it feels like a dream come true almost, because bodybuilding has been my dream since I can remember, since I knew it existed, right? Uh,
Yeah,
and I know don't mean competing, I mean bodybuilding in itself. Like the first time I saw that magazine when I was 16, it was just that I didn't know the competing world existed, but bodybuilding has always been my dream, like looking like that. So finding a job, that 100% supports it is just, it's like a dream come true,
That's terrific. No, I'm really glad to hear that, and I appreciate your candor about it too. Um, I'm going to ask you, I think, just one more question. If I was curious about in terms of like Instagram and other social media, do you find yourself to be target of like fit shaming? Because I didn't even realize bodybuilders have to go through that because y'all already look like superheroes, but it's just weird that that even exists, but dealing with trolls and such.
Yeah, I it's mostly on honestly, it's mostly on Facebook and that I get the most, like, why would you want to look like that? And nobody wants to hug a muscle. I've gotten that. I've gotten, of course, uh calling me manly and stuff like that, which fine, like you know, to each their own. And it doesn't bother me when people are like, oh, this is not attractive. Okay, well, I'm not doing it for you. And you're entitled to that opinion. Um, there was somebody on Facebook, I think the last time I got something negative was someone on Facebook was like, is everyone something about juicing, right? Which I'm not gonna try to deny that. I do.
Mhm.
But he misspelled a bunch of things, and I didn't even reply. I just corrected his grammar.
Oh, I like that.
And then he replied, he goes, good to know that the juice hasn't affected your brain. And he spelled your the wrong way. And so I just corrected it again.
Oh, oh no, I like
Yeah.
that. That's a good way to respond to some of the trolls, I think. Definitely,
Yeah.
yeah. They're
I yeah. Yes,
they're
I fit shaming is a thing, but it is everything's gonna get, and it doesn't matter what you do, something's gonna get shamed.
yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and no, I admire y'all muscle ladies because I know y'all put a lot of hard work into it, and like I said, you look like superheroes. You look amazing. So so what I was going to ask you, as I mentioned at the beginning, to do like a quick flex, but I'm going to mute myself real quick and ask you to say something and then flex.
Okay, what should I say? I'm not sure what he wants me to say, but here's my lats. Is that good?
That's terrific. Thank you so much, Hannah. You look good,
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah,
thank
your
you.
lats are really awesome, and yeah, I think you're right about your front lats being kind of your signature pose for sure.
Yeah, like I don't want to waste that in physique.
Oh no, you look great.
Thank you.
Um, well, I'll get this posted relatively soon, and I'll make sure to include your Instagram and Jake's as well. And
Oh, thank you.
yeah, no problem. But thanks again for your time, and look forward to you competing next year.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks, Hannah.
Bye.
Bye.